The diplomatic incident. Captain Maya Chen stood on the bridge of the UNSS Pathfinder, watching the massive Exilian vessel drift into view. The alien ship resembled a giant crystalline structure that somehow defied physics, all sharp angles and impossible geometries that seemed to bend light around them. It was beautiful in a way that made her skin crawl. "Nervous, Captain?" asked Commander Reeves, her second in command. Maya straightened her uniform. "Just cautious. First official diplomatic contact with the Exilians. A lot riding on this." The Exilians had been discovered 3 months ago by a deep space exploration vessel. Initial communications had been promising. They appeared technologically advanced, claimed to value peaceful relations, and expressed interest in cultural exchange. Their ships had been spotted at the edges of human territory for weeks before formal contact was established. "Ambassador Jackson's shuttle is ready for departure," reported Lieutenant Capri from the communication station. Maya nodded. "I want a direct feed to the bridge until they enter the diplomatic chamber." "The Exilians have already objected to that, Captain," said Capri. "They claim their diplomatic protocols prohibit external communications during sensitive discussions." Maya frowned. Something about this didn't feel right. But she had her orders. Ambassador Richard Jackson was Earth's most experienced diplomat, with successful first contact missions to 4 other species. If anyone could navigate this meeting, it was him. "Very well. But ensure the emergency beacon system is fully operational. And I want hourly check-ins until the protocols begin." The shuttle departed the Pathfinder with Ambassador Jackson and his team of 5, 3 diplomats, and 2 security officers. Maya watched it cross the void toward the crystalline vessel, fighting the unease in her gut. The next 48 hours passed in tense silence. The scheduled check-ins stopped after the first 6 hours, which Ambassador Jackson had explained might happen once formal talks began. The diplomatic blackout was expected to last no more than 2 days. When 60 hours had passed, Maya ordered communications to hail the Exilian vessel. "No response, Captain," reported Capri, the tension evident in his voice. "Keep trying. Every hour on the hour." By the 4th day, Maya had informed Earth Command of the situation. They ordered her to maintain position but prepare for all contingencies. On the 5th day, the massive Exilian ship began to move. "They're charging engines," reported the sensor officer. "Looks like they're preparing for departure." "Hail them again," Maya ordered, her voice sharp with concern. "Still no response, Captain." "Lock weapons systems. Prepare tow." "Captain." "Small object deploying from the Exilian vessel," interrupted the sensor officer. "Dimensions match a standard cargo container. No propulsion or energy signatures detected." Maya hesitated. The Exilian ship was already accelerating away. If she pursued them, she'd lose whatever they had deployed. "Tractor beam, bring it aboard. Full quarantine protocols." The medical team, led by Dr. Elena Castillo, approached the container in isolation suits. The bridge crew watched through helmet cameras as they scanned the object for hazards. "No biological, chemical, or radiological threats detected," reported Dr. Castillo. Proceeding to open. The container's seal broke with a hiss. Dr. Castillo's scream echoed through the communication system before she cut it off with practiced professionalism. But her voice shook when she spoke again. "Captain, you need to see this." When Maya arrived at the quarantine bay, the horror of what she saw would be forever burned into her memory. Ambassador Jackson and his entire team had been systematically dismembered. Each body part was preserved in a clear suspension gel, meticulously labeled in both Exilian symbols and English. Organs, limbs, tissues, all arranged with a clinical precision that made the atrocity even more disturbing. But the worst discovery came when Dr. Castillo completed her preliminary analysis. The cellular degradation patterns indicate that the subjects were. Dr. Castillo swallowed hard. "They were conscious during the procedures, Captain. The Exilians kept them alive while they did this." Maya turned away, fighting the bile rising in her throat. She steadied herself against a wall. then activated her comlink. Bridge, set course for Earth. Maximum speed. And open a priority channel to Earth Command. When the connection was established, Maya found herself facing Admiral Helena Grant, the head of the United Earth Defense Force. Report, Captain Chen. Maya struggled to keep her voice steady. Admiral, the Exilians they've returned Ambassador Jackson and his team to us. That's unexpected. What was the outcome of the negotiations? They didn't negotiate, Admiral. They returned our people in pieces, deliberately dissected while still alive. The Admiral's face hardened into a mask of stone. After a long silence, she spoke in a voice that sent chills down Maya's spine. Return to Earth immediately, Captain Chen. The Security Council is being convened. During the 3-day journey back to Earth, Maya addressed her crew only once. Standing on the bridge, her hand still trembling slightly, she opened the shipwide channel. This is your captain speaking. What we witnessed today represents an act of war and a crime against humanity beyond anything in our history. We are returning to Earth, where I have no doubt the full might of our planet will be mobilized in response. Remember what we saw. Remember Ambassador Jackson and his team. The Exilians have shown us exactly who they are. Now we will show them exactly who we are. The Pathfinder reached Earth orbit to find the planet already preparing for war. News of the diplomatic team's fate had spread across every continent. The United Earth Security Council had been in continuous session for 48 hours. Maya was immediately summoned to the council's chambers beneath Geneva. She entered a room filled with the highest-ranking military and political leaders on the planet, all gathered around a holographic display showing the Exilian vessel. President Isabel Morales of the United Earth government nodded grimly as Maya entered. Captain Chen, thank you for bringing our people home. I understand this has been difficult. Yes, Madam President. We've reviewed all available data from your encounter. There is one question I need answered before we proceed. In your professional judgment, was this a misunderstanding? Could the Exilians have believed they were following some form of proper diplomatic protocol? Maya didn't hesitate. No, Madam President. The precision of their actions, the care taken to preserve and label each part, the deliberate return of the remains. This was a message. And what message do you believe they were sending, Captain? That they don't see us as equals. That to them, we're specimens to be studied. That they believe they can do this without consequences. Admiral Grant spoke up. The Joint Chiefs are unanimous, Madam President. This was not just murder. This was not just an act of war. This was a demonstration of their view of humanity as inferior beings. President Morales nodded slowly. The Security Council vote was unanimous as well. For the first time since the formation of the United Earth government, we will declare war. She looked around the room. But I want something clear. We are not fighting because we love war. We're fighting because they left us no choice. An hour later, President Morales addressed the United Earth Congress. She did not hide the truth about what happened to Ambassador Jackson and his team. The vote for war was immediate and unanimous. Operation Retribution began. Ships from routine patrols were reassigned to battle groups. Reserves were called up. Factories switched to military production. The peace that Earth had maintained for nearly 2 decades was over. But as the military machine geared up, Major Eli Vega was called to a small meeting room where Admiral Grant waited with Dr. Castillo. Major Vega, said the Admiral, while everyone else is focused on how to fight the Exilians, I need someone focused on why. Vega, a former Special Forces operative now working in intelligence, looked confused. I'm not sure I understand, Admiral. Admiral Grant activated a display showing the detailed analysis of the returned remains. Something doesn't add up, said Dr. Castillo. The precision, the preservation methods, the labeling. It's almost as if. As if what, Doctor? Asked Vega. As if they were conducting research, she replied quietly. Very specific research. Admiral Grant's eyes were hard. I want you to find out why the Exilians did this, Major. What were they looking for? And how can we use that information against them? As the rest of humanity prepared for conventional war, Vega began hunting for the one thing that might give Earth an edge, the reason behind the Exilians' horrific act. Operation Swift Justice. Commander Eli Vega stared at the holographic display in his underground lab beneath the Rocky Mountains. 3 weeks had passed since Earth declared war on the Exilian Empire, and conventional warfare was proving costly. The Exilians possessed technology centuries beyond humanity's capabilities, energy shields that could withstand nuclear strikes, weapons that seemed to bend the laws of physics, and propulsion systems that allowed them to appear and disappear almost instantly. "You look terrible," said Dr. Elena Castillo as she entered the lab, carrying 2 cups of coffee. Vega accepted one gratefully. Sleep isn't a priority when you're losing a war. "Any progress?" "Some." Vega gestured to the display, showing cellular samples from Ambassador Jackson's team. "I've been comparing their dissection patterns with everything we know about Exilian biology. They were methodical. They focused on our nervous system, endocrine glands, and genetic material. They were studying us," Elena said quietly. "Not just studying, looking for something specific." Vega pulled up another image, a complex molecule highlighted in red. "This is a compound present in human adrenal tissue. The Exilians extracted it from every member of the diplomatic team." Elena leaned closer. "That's unusual. What's significant about it? It's produced when humans experience extreme stress or fear. And here's the interesting part." Vega swiped to a new image showing an Exilian biological sample obtained from a damaged ship debris. "This compound is chemically similar to a neurotransmitter in Exilian physiology, one that's associated with their reproductive cycle." Elena's eyes widened. They were harvesting stress hormones. "But why?" "I don't know yet, but I think it's our advantage." Vega straightened up. "We need to get this information to Admiral Grant immediately." Within hours, a classified briefing was underway in the Pentagon's deepest secure room. Admiral Grant, President Morales, and the Joint Chiefs listened as Vega presented his findings. "So they butchered our people to study our stress responses?" President Morales asked, disgust evident in her voice. "Yes, Madam President, and based on the analysis, I believe Exilians might be uniquely vulnerable to this compound." Vega displayed a simulation showing how concentrated human stress hormones could potentially disrupt Exilian neural pathways. It could temporarily disable their cognitive functions, maybe even permanently at high enough doses. Admiral Grant leaned forward. "Are you suggesting biological warfare, Commander?" "I'm suggesting we use their own curiosity against them," Vega replied. "A surgical strike. 1 ship, 1 mission. If I'm right, we can end this war without losing another soldier." After intense debate, Operation Swift Justice was approved. A stealth vessel, the UNSS Nemesis, was equipped with a synthesized version of the compound, concentrated and weaponized. Captain Maya Chen, who had witnessed the original atrocity, volunteered to command the mission. "You understand the risks?" Vega asked her during the final briefing. "If you're captured, I know exactly what they'll do to me," Maya said coldly. "That's why failure isn't an option." The Nemesis departed Earth orbit 3 days later, using experimental stealth technology to approach the Exilian home system. Their target, the massive crystalline structure orbiting the 3rd planet, the Exilian Central Authority. "Stealth Systems Holding," reported Lieutenant Capri, now serving as Maya's communications officer. "No indication they've detected us." Maya nodded. "Begin the approach. Commander Vega, is your team ready?" Vega checked his tactical squad, 6 Special Forces operators equipped with the weaponized compound. "Ready, Captain." As they neared the crystalline structure, they detected something unexpected: massive energy signatures pulsing through the station. "What are we looking at?" Maya asked. Dr. Castillo, monitoring from the science station, frowned. "It appears to be some form of gestational chamber. The energy patterns are consistent with accelerated development. Vega's eyes narrowed. They're breeding, using our compounds to enhance their reproductive cycle. The implications were staggering. The Exilians hadn't dissected Ambassador Jackson and his team out of cruelty or to send a message. They had harvested biological components essential to their species' survival. That doesn't excuse what they did, Maya said firmly. Proceed with the mission. The Nemesis docked with the Exilian structure, using specialized cutting tools to breach the outer hull. Vega led his team through the crystalline corridors, encountering minimal resistance. The Exilians clearly hadn't expected anyone to reach their central authority. They reached the core chamber to find a massive, pulsating crystalline entity surrounded by thousands of incubation pods. Each pod contained a developing Exilian, and the central entity appeared to be channeling energy to them. The Queen, Vega muttered. They're a hive species. He raised his weapon, ready to deploy the compound directly into the ventilation system that would spread it throughout the structure. But something made him hesitate. The Queen was channeling energy to the pods, but she was visibly weakening. The developing Exilians appeared malformed, struggling to develop properly. They're dying, Dr. Castillo said through the comlink, analyzing the readings from Vega's suit sensors. Their entire species is facing extinction. President Morales' voice came through their secure channel. Commander Vega, you have a go to deploy the weapon. Vega looked at the dying Queen, then at the malformed offspring. Madam President, request permission to attempt communication first. A tense silence followed. You have 3 minutes, Commander. Vega approached the Queen entity, lowering his weapon. Using the translation algorithms developed from previous Exilian communications, he broadcast a simple message. We know why you took our people. We know you're dying. The crystalline structure pulsed, and a voice resonated through their minds. Not sound, but pure thought. Your kind produces what we need. Without it, we perish. One sacrifice for many lives. Fair exchange. Not to us, Vega replied. You could have asked. Explained. We might have helped willingly. The Queen's thoughts seemed confused. Asked. No species helps another without compulsion. Vega realized the fundamental misunderstanding. Humans are different. We believe in consent, in choice. What you did was wrong by our standards. Wrong. This concept is unfamiliar. Let me show you. Vega took a vial from his pack, not the weaponized compound, but a pure version of the human stress hormone. This is what you need. I'm giving it to you freely. As a demonstration, he placed the vial near one of the incubation pods. Within moments, the malformed Exilian inside began to stabilize, its crystalline structure strengthening. The Queen's thoughts radiated surprise. You give, without taking? Yes, and we could synthesize more. Enough for your entire species. But you must understand, never again take from us without asking. Never harm our people, and you will return all remains of our ambassador and his team with honor. President Morales' voice came through again. Commander Vega, what are you doing? Ending the war, Madam President. The Exilians didn't understand our concept of diplomatic relations or consent. Their species is dying, and they saw us as a resource, not as equals. That doesn't justify what they did. No, it doesn't. But exterminating them won't bring our people back. Vega looked directly at the Queen. We're offering you a choice. Agree to our terms, formal recognition of humanity as equals, reparations for the lives taken, and a binding treaty, or we deploy a compound that will ensure no Exilian ever reproduces again. The Queen's thoughts were silent for a long moment. Then, we accept. Within 24 hours, the Exilian fleet withdrew from human territory. The remains of Ambassador Jackson and his team were returned with ceremonial honors, and a new treaty was established, one that recognized the severity of the Exilians' crime but offered a path forward. 6 months later, Commander Vega stood before the United Earth Security Council. "The Exilians have fully complied with all terms," he reported. "The synthesized compound is being provided under strict controls, and their population is stabilizing. They've also shared significant technological advances as reparation." President Morales nodded. "Some still believe we should have annihilated them for what they did. Justice and vengeance aren't the same thing." "Madam President," Vega replied, "we showed strength not just in our willingness to fight, but in our capacity for understanding. That's what truly separates us." Admiral Grant, who had initially advocated for complete military response, spoke quietly. The Exilians had never encountered a species capable of both formidable strength and compassion. They didn't understand that our greatest power isn't in our weapons, it's in our humanity. As the meeting concluded, Vega received a message from Captain Chen aboard the UNSS Pathfinder, now leading a scientific mission to study the ongoing Exilian cultural transformation. "You should see this," her message read, attached to a recording of an Exilian ceremony. Their leaders had erected a memorial to Ambassador Jackson and his team, not as specimens, but as the catalysts who had unknowingly saved two civilizations, one from extinction and one from losing its soul to vengeance. In the cold vacuum of space, humanity had faced its darkest hour and its greatest test, and in choosing understanding alongside strength, they had proven themselves truly worthy of the stars.